The first habit that has the power to change your life within a week is the habit of living in the end. This habit is not about wishful thinking, nor is it about daydreaming or casually entertaining the idea of a better life. Living in the end means to take on the state of your wish fulfilled so completely that it becomes more real to you than your present circumstances. It is a daring act of imagination. You see, the world around you is not fixed or unchangeable. Though it may appear solid, it is fluid, responding moment by moment to the assumptions you entertain in the depths of your consciousness. If you assume lack, the world mirrors lack. If you assume wealth, health, love, or success, the world bends itself to outpicture those states. Living in the end requires you to withdraw your attention from appearances and place it firmly on the unseen reality that you choose. For instance, if you desire abundance, you no longer look at your empty bank account and call it truth. Instead, you inwardly accept that you already possess what you desire. You feel the relief, the freedom, the joy that comes from already being in possession of it. You live mentally in the state of fulfillment, not tomorrow, not some distant future, but now. This is the secret so many overlook, because they are waiting for evidence before they will believe. Yet belief itself is the evidence, and when belief is sustained, physical reality must follow. When you practice living in the end, you are not struggling or forcing conditions to change. You are simply selecting the state you wish to inhabit and dwelling there in imagination. Just as an actor becomes the role by assuming the posture, the tone, the feeling of the character, you become the person you long to be by embodying that version of yourself inwardly. At first it may feel like play acting, but as you persist, it grows more natural. Eventually it becomes effortless, and in that moment the outer world must shift to confirm your new state. Life always reflects the inner conviction. This habit is especially powerful when practiced at night before you fall asleep. The moments before sleep are when the conscious mind is quiet, and the subconscious is most receptive. In that drowsy state, if you construct a simple scene that implies your desire has already been fulfilled, and lose yourself in the feeling of it, you plant the seed in fertile soil. Sleep carries that seed into the depths of the subconscious, and the subconscious brings it forth into expression. This is why a week of living in the end can yield astonishing results. Each night you are impressing your subconscious with the certainty that your wish is already and accomplished. It is important to remember that living in the end does not mean you ignore the present world or deny its existence. Rather, you refuse to accept it as final. You recognize it as nothing more than the shadow cast by past assumptions. By withdrawing your belief from the old and giving your belief to the new, you set in motion a creative process that cannot fail. The outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect your new inner conviction. If you wish to know the future, look not to circumstances, but to what you are imagining right now. The second habit that transforms life in a single week is the habit of inner silence. Most people believe their lives are shaped by external events, by what others do, by circumstances beyond their control. Yet the true architect of life is the constant stream of inner conversations each person carries on within themselves. From the moment you awaken until the moment you sleep, you are talking inwardly. You are commenting on what you see, judging, expecting, doubting, fearing, hoping. These silent conversations are not idle chatter. They are seeds being planted in the fertile ground of the subconscious. Each word spoken inwardly carries with it a feeling, and each feeling calls forth a corresponding event in the outer world. The habit of inner silence is the art of disciplining these conversations. It is the refusal to indulge in inner arguments, complaints, or fears. It is the awareness that what you tell yourself in secret becomes your reality in public. When you recognize this truth, you become watchful of the inner talk you permit. You begin to notice when you are rehearsing failure, when you are reliving hurts, when you are imagining rejection or disappointment, and instead of allowing those thoughts to linger, you choose to replace them with new conversations that align with your desired state. Inner silence does not mean the absence of all thought, but the mastery of thought. It is the ability to quiet the mind long enough to feel the truth of your assumption, without contradiction. Suppose you are imagining yourself successful, yet inwardly you argue with yourself that it is too hard, that you lack the resources, that others have an advantage. Those inner objections will neutralize your assumption. But if you cultivate inner silence, you learn to stop those opposing voices. You stand firm in the feeling of success and refuse to entertain any contradictory dialogue. In this silence, your subconscious receives the impression purely, without dilution, and must bring it forth. This habit also trains you to become aware of the quality of your inner words throughout the day. For instance, If you desire health, but all day long you speak inwardly of your weakness or sickness, you are planting weeds that choke the harvest. Instead, in the habit of inner silence, you deliberately speak inwardly of strength, vitality, wholeness. If you desire love, you no longer replay arguments or anticipate rejection. You cultivate inner conversations filled with harmony, affection, and joy. In time, these inner conversations become more real to you than any outer situation. The outer world, being but a shadow, conforms itself to your dominant inner speech. Silence, then, is not passive. It is powerful. It is the silence of authority, the silence of one who no longer wavers. In inner silence, you rise above fear and doubt because you have settled the matter within yourself. You have heard the only voice that matters, the voice of your own imagination declaring it done. And as you rest in that silence, the world rearranges itself to echo your inward conviction. When these two habits are joined, living in the end and cultivating inner silence, they form the foundation for rapid transformation. One places you firmly in the state of your fulfilled desire, and the other guards that state from being stolen by contradictory inner talk. Living in the end feeds the subconscious with the image of your chosen reality, while inner silence protects that image until it bears fruit. Together, they have the power to alter the entire course of your life in as little as a week. Because in truth it does not take time to change states, it only takes decision. Time is merely the interval required for the outer world to catch up with your inner certainty. Every day offers countless opportunities to practice these habits. Every moment you are either living in the end or living in the problem. Every moment you are either indulging in useless inner chatter or maintaining the silence of faith. The choice is always yours, and the results are inevitable. When you begin to choose deliberately, even for 1 week, you will prove to yourself the creative power of imagination and the absolute law of assumption. The third habit that has the power to bring visible change in the span of a single week is the habit of gratitude in advance. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a reaction, as something we feel only after we receive. Most people wait until a gift arrives before they give thanks. But the secret is that gratitude is most potent when it is offered before the gift is visible. Gratitude in advance is a declaration that you already have what you desire. It is a signal to the subconscious that the matter is settled, that the prayer has been answered, that the promise is already kept. By giving thanks now, you step into the reality of possession, and possession must always express itself outwardly. Gratitude is not merely words spoken, it is a state of consciousness. To give thanks in advance is to feel the satisfaction, the relief, and the joy of already having your desire fulfilled. This feeling is the language the subconscious understands. Imagine desiring perfect health, and before any visible change occurs, you close your eyes and thank life for the energy flowing through you. You imagine yourself free, whole, vibrant, and in that inner scene you give thanks as if it were already true. This act is not pretending, it is claiming. It is affirming that what you desire exists already in the unseen, and must inevitably appear in the seen. The power of gratitude in advance is that it collapses the sense of waiting. When you are waiting, you are declaring separation. You are saying, I do not yet have it, I hope one day I will. But when you give thanks now, you are affirming that it is already yours. This shifts your state immediately. You are no longer standing outside the promise looking in. You are inside the promise, already living it, already enjoying it. The world around you begins to mirror that state, for the outer always conforms to the inner. Gratitude in advance also shifts your attention from lack to abundance. Lack and gratitude cannot coexist. When you feel grateful, you cannot simultaneously feel deprived. Your focus moves to what is present, what is abundant, what is overflowing. This focus multiplies itself. Just as when you water a plant, it grows stronger. When you water the feeling of abundance through gratitude, it expands and multiplies in your experience. Even if your desire has not yet appeared in outer form, the habit of gratitude draws it closer, because you are no longer affirming the distance between yourself and your wish. You are affirming the closeness, the nearness, the fact of possession. To practice this habit, set aside time each day to imagine the fulfillment of your desire and to thank life. Thank the divine. Thank your own imagination for its completion. Do not rush through it mechanically, but sink into the actual feeling of thankfulness. Let it saturate you until you feel light, relieved, certain. Carry that feeling with you into the day. Whenever doubt arises, whenever fear whispers, return to gratitude. Say inwardly, thank you, it is already done. This repetition not only calms the mind, but also impresses the subconscious with certainty. And the subconscious, once impressed, must externalize what you have assumed. The fourth habit is the practice of revising the day. This habit is both simple and profound. At the close of the day, just before sleep, review the events that occurred. If something displeased you, if there was a mistake, a disappointment, a harsh word spoken, do not accept it as final. Instead, take the scene back into your imagination and change it. Revise it to reflect the outcome you wish had happened. If a conversation was painful, replay it in your mind, but imagine it turning out harmoniously. If you failed at a task, replay the scene, but see yourself succeeding with ease. If you felt rejected, imagine instead being welcomed, loved, and valued. By revising the day, you are altering the seed you plant in your subconscious before sleep. The day that has passed is not truly fixed. It lives as a memory, and memory is malleable. By changing the memory, you change its effect on the subconscious. The subconscious does not distinguish between the event as it occurred and the event as you imagine it. It accepts what you feel to be true. If you revise the day and feel the new scene to be real, the subconscious receives it as fact and carries it forward into tomorrow. Thus, you break the chain of repetition that would have carried the old undesirable event into your future. This habit teaches you that nothing in your past has power over you except the meaning you continue to give it. Every experience can be reshaped. Every memory can be revised. And as you revise, you not only free yourself from the weight of regret or pain, but you also rewrite the pattern of your future. Life repeats itself because we unconsciously rehearse the same stories, the same hurts, the same failures in our minds. By revising, you interrupt this cycle. You plant new stories, new successes, new joys, and the future bends accordingly. Revision is not escapism. It is creation. You are not ignoring the facts of life, but recognizing that facts are only the fruit of former assumptions. By revising, you are planting new causes, which must yield new facts. Think of it as editing a script. If you do not like the ending of the scene, you do not accept it. You rewrite it until it aligns with your desire. Then you hand this new script to the subconscious, and the subconscious, being faithful, will bring it forth in outer expression. The practice of revision also deepens your sense of mastery over life. It shows you that you are never at the mercy of circumstances. Even if the day seemed unfavorable, you hold the power to reshape it before sleep. And because sleep is the gateway to the subconscious, the revised day takes root more deeply than the outer day. In time, you begin to notice subtle changes. People who once opposed you become friendly. Situations that once blocked you dissolve. Opportunities appear where none seemed possible. All of this flows from the simple act of revising before sleep. To practice this habit, each night as you lie in bed, let your mind drift back over the day. Pick out the scenes that were not in harmony with your desire. Then gently replay them in imagination, altering them until they conform to the way you would have wished them to be. Do not strain. Do not force. Simply imagine the new scene until it feels natural and real. Feel the satisfaction of this new outcome, and then drift into sleep while holding that feeling. Sleep will carry it deep into the subconscious, and the subconscious will reproduce it in your waking world. These two habits, gratitude in advance and revision of the day, work together in a remarkable way. Gratitude ensures that you live now in the joy of already having your desire, while revision ensures that no undesirable seed lingers to shape your tomorrow. Gratitude moves you forward into possession, and revision clears away the residue of the past. One plants the new, the other uproots the old. Practice together for a single week. They can bring about changes so profound that you will wonder why you ever lived without them. They reveal that life is not a chain of accidents but a canvas, and your imagination holds the brush. The fifth habit that carries with it the power to reshape your experience in the space of a single week is the habit of walking in faith. Faith is often mistaken for passive belief, a vague hope that things will turn out well. Yet true faith is far from passive. It is active, dynamic, and commanding. To walk in faith is to conduct yourself as though your desire were already a fact. It is to let your posture, your tone, your decisions, and your energy reflect the conviction that the unseen is already real. The world does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you embody. Walking in faith means to embody now the version of yourself who already possesses the dream fulfilled. Faith is not blind optimism. It is sight of a higher kind. Where the physical eye sees lack, faith sees abundance. Where the senses register absence, faith registers presence. To walk in faith is to place more trust in the reality of imagination than in the evidence of the senses. Imagine a person desiring healing. If they walk in faith, They rise from bed and carry themselves with the dignity and vitality of one who is already whole. They refuse to bow to appearances. They walk with energy. They speak with certainty. They feel the inner rhythm of health. This conduct impresses the subconscious with the image of wholeness, and the subconscious, having no choice, externalizes it. The habit of walking in faith requires courage because it often contradicts what the world presents. If your bank account is empty, faith requires you to act with the quiet assurance of one who already lives in sufficiency. If relationships appear broken, faith asks you to move as though love and harmony are already yours. This does not mean reckless spending or denial of the senses, but it does mean refusing to let appearances dictate your inner state. When you walk in faith, you consult not the outer world but the inner assumption. You ask yourself not what is, but what would be if my desire were already true. Then you carry yourself accordingly. Walking in faith changes everything about your energy. People sense it in your presence. Doors open where before they were closed. Opportunities that seemed impossible begin to appear. Because life reflects the conviction you carry. Faith magnetizes. It draws to you the conditions necessary to make your assumption visible. Yet it is not the outer conditions that create the result. It is the inner state that summons those conditions. When you embody faith for 1 week, you set into motion a chain of events that alters the entire direction of your life. This habit is practiced in small moments as well as large ones. Each time you face a choice, ask yourself, what decision would I make if I knew my desire were already fulfilled? Then choose accordingly. Each time you speak, let your words reflect the assurance of the fulfilled wish. Each time you carry yourself, let your posture mirror the confidence of one who has arrived. In time, this conduct no longer feels like effort. It becomes natural. The state you once had to deliberately assume becomes your dwelling place, and the world conforms to it. The sixth habit that transforms life quickly is the habit of refusing the old state. The moment you decide to assume a new identity, the old self will rise up to challenge you. It will whisper reminders of past failures. It will parade before you the evidence of what has been. It will try to lure you back into familiar patterns of thought and feeling. This is the nature of the old state, for it seeks survival through repetition. Yet if you indulge it, you delay your transformation. To truly change, you must learn the habit of refusing the old state, no matter how loudly it calls. Refusing the old state does not mean fighting against it. What you resist with fear or anger only grows stronger. Refusal is quieter but firmer. It is the simple but resolute act of withdrawing your attention. When the memory of failure surfaces, you do not dwell on it. You turn your attention back to the image of success. When feelings of lack arise, you do not argue with them. You shift into the feeling of abundance. When voices of doubt speak within, you do not debate them. You return to silence and reaffirm your new assumption. This steady refusal weakens the old state until it dissolves completely. Every state has its own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you persist in the old state, you will think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, act in the same ways, and thereby recreate the same experiences. The habit of refusing the old state cuts this cycle short. It interrupts the momentum of the past and allows the new state to take root. At first, the old identity may seem powerful, like a shadow that looms over every attempt to rise higher. But as you continue to refuse it, you will find it grows weaker, while the new identity grows stronger. Consider someone who has lived long in the state of limitation. The old self may say, "Opportunities never come my way," or "I am unlucky," or "People do not see my value." These inner statements have been repeated for so long they feel like truth. Yet they are only habits of thought. To refuse them is to withdraw belief from them. Each time they arise, the person chooses instead to affirm, "I am valued, I am chosen, I am abundant." At first the old state will protest, pointing to evidence of the past. But if the new state is consistently affirmed and the old one is refused, the scale tips. The subconscious accepts the new story, and life reshapes itself to prove it. This habit is a form of inner discipline. It requires vigilance, for the old state often slips in unnoticed. But the more aware you become of your inner dialogue and feelings, the quicker you are able to recognize when the old state is trying to reclaim you. The moment you notice it, you gently but firmly refuse it. You do not scold yourself for having the thought. You simply replace it with the thought and feeling that belong to your chosen identity. In time, this refusal becomes second nature, and the old state fades like a dream from which you have awakened. What makes this habit so powerful is that it severs the ties to your past. Many people fail to create lasting change because they continue to revisit the old state. They look back, they rehearse old stories, they identify with old hurts. They may assume the new state for a time, but because they keep returning to the old, they never fully cross the bridge. The habit of refusing the old state is the bridge-burning act. It is the decision that the past has no power to dictate the present. Once you refuse it consistently, the old state loses its grip, and the new state becomes your permanent dwelling place. Walking in faith and refusing the old state are two habits that work together in harmony. One calls you to embody the new with confidence and assurance. The other prevents you from slipping back into the former self. Walking in faith plants your feet firmly in the land of promise, and refusing the old state keeps you from wandering back into the desert. When you practice these habits, even for a week, the shift is undeniable. You discover that life bends not to chance but to conviction, not to circumstances but to states. You learn that by refusing the old and embodying the new, you set into motion a transformation that is both inevitable and lasting. The seventh habit that can change life dramatically within a week is the habit of understanding, and practicing that feeling is the secret. Words alone carry no creative force unless they are joined with the feeling that makes them alive. To merely say affirmations without conviction is like planting seeds on stone. They will not take root. But when words are infused with genuine feeling, they sink into the soil of the subconscious where they begin to grow and bear fruit. Feeling is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It is the signal that tells the subconscious what to bring forth. Feeling is not simply an emotion. It is the assumption of a state as though it were real. When you assume the feeling of already being the person you desire to be, you are impressing that state on the subconscious, and the subconscious must externalize it. For instance, if you desire success, you do not merely say, "I am successful," and hope that one day it will come true. Instead, you close your eyes and imagine what it would feel like to live as a successful person now. You imagine the satisfaction, the confidence, the ease. You allow yourself to feel the relief of having achieved your goal, the gratitude of living in that reality. As you sink into that feeling, even if only for a few minutes, you have planted the seed of success in the only place that matters. The habit of cultivating feeling requires practice, because the world of senses constantly attempts to pull your attention back to appearances. You may say, "I am wealthy," but if you feel poor, it is the feeling that will dominate. You may say, "I am loved," but if you feel lonely, it is the feeling that shapes your reality. To change life, you must persist in creating the inner mood that aligns with your desire, until it becomes more natural than the old feeling. The subconscious does not understand words in isolation, but it responds instantly to mood and tone. When you are saturated with the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have given the command, and life must obey. The way to master this habit is to deliberately choose time each day to enter into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It may be just before sleep, when the mind is quiet and receptive, or in quiet moments throughout the day. Begin by constructing a simple scene that would imply your desire is already real. If you seek companionship, imagine yourself holding the hand of your beloved. If you desire financial freedom, imagine yourself looking at a statement that shows abundance. Do not complicate the scene with unnecessary detail. Keep it simple, but feel it real. Let the mood of fulfillment soak into you until you no longer feel you are imagining, but that you are remembering. This subtle shift in perception is the mark of successful creation. Feeling also has the power to overwrite old assumptions. If you have lived long in a state of lack or fear, the dominant feeling of your life may be one of struggle. This feeling has shaped your world again and again. But once you begin to cultivate the opposite feeling, even for short intervals, you begin to erode the old pattern. Like water carving stone, repeated practice of the right feeling reshapes the subconscious, and the subconscious in turn reshapes your world. You may not see immediate evidence in the outer world, but if you remain loyal to the inner mood, the evidence will come. Another important aspect of this habit is to understand that feeling always trumps logic. The rational mind may argue with your desire. It may say, "This is impossible. It has never happened before. The facts are against me." But if you can generate the feeling of already having your desire, the rational mind is silenced. The subconscious does not care for logic. It only responds to the conviction of feeling. Many people unknowingly keep themselves bound because they try to reason their way into faith. Yet faith is not born of reason. It is born of feeling. When you feel the truth of your assumption, no outer fact can shake you, and eventually the facts must change to match the inner conviction. The eighth habit is the realization and consistent practice of knowing that you are the operant power. This is one of the most liberating truths you can ever accept. It frees you from waiting on circumstances, from depending on luck, from hoping that someone else will rescue you. To know you are the operant power is to understand that your imagination, your assumptions, and your feelings are the source of all creation in your world. Nothing happens to you by accident. Everything reflects the states you have accepted. Once you realize this, you no longer give power to outer conditions, for you know they are only shadows of your inner life. To live with the awareness that you are the operant power is to take full responsibility for your experience. This responsibility is not heavy, but empowering. It means you can change anything by changing the assumptions you hold. If life presents you with lack, you recognize that it is only the result of past assumptions of lack, and you change it by assuming abundance now. If life presents you with conflict, you realize that it springs from inner conversations of disharmony, and you change it by assuming harmony now. You do not wait for outer change before you shift inward. You shift inward first, knowing the outer will follow. Many resist this truth because it leaves no room for excuses. If you are the operant power, you cannot blame others. You cannot complain about fate. You cannot wait for destiny to favor you. Yet this is precisely what makes the truth so powerful. You are no longer at the mercy of anything. You carry the creative power within you, and you can exercise it at will. Once you begin to live from this awareness, fear dissolves. You know that no matter what arises, you have the power to reshape it through imagination. To cultivate this habit, you must constantly remind yourself that what you assume, you create. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I hope this works," or "I wonder if it will happen," stop and remind yourself, "I am the operant power. My assumption is law." This inner reminder strengthens your authority and prevents you from slipping into passivity. Life does not respond to wishes but to assumptions held with conviction. By claiming your role as the operant power, you shift from waiting to creating. Living in the awareness of being the operant power also changes the way you view others. You recognize that they are not independent causes of your experience, but reflections of your own inner states. If someone treats you harshly, you no longer waste energy in resentment. Instead, you ask, "What assumption within me produced this reflection, and how can I change it?" In doing so, you regain control, and the outer relationship adjusts as you alter your inner stance. This perspective frees you from endless cycles of blame and reaction. You move from victimhood to mastery. When you practice knowing yourself as the operant power for even 1 week, you begin to sense a shift in your energy. You feel more deliberate, more grounded, more certain. You stop asking if things will happen and begin declaring that they are happening. The outer world, sensing this certainty, rearranges itself to confirm your stance. Opportunities arise, doors open, relationships heal, finances improve. Not by chance, but by the law of assumption operating through your awareness. This is not arrogance, but recognition of truth. To know you are the operant power is to live in harmony with the creative principle itself. The union of these two habits, feeling as the secret and knowing yourself as the operant power, creates a foundation of unshakable mastery. One gives you the method, the other gives you the authority. Feeling tells you how to impress the subconscious, and knowing you are the operant power gives you the confidence to persist until it manifests. When you bring these habits into daily practice, even for a short span of time, the change in your experience is undeniable. You no longer drift through life reacting to appearances. You become the deliberate creator of your reality, shaping it moment by moment with feeling and assumption.